So, made it to your third day of training. Hey, I'm Rob, and in our last training, we took a look at how important consistency is, not just for your forehand, but for your entire game as well. And in this next training, congratulations for making it this far, because we're going to be taking a closer look at the technical side of your forehand and how to add more precision and depth to your shots. And this is what we're going to be calling shaping of the ball. So we've all played that guy who is either a powerful hitter or just hits it really deep and constantly keeps you behind the baseline, and it just seems like you can't get a break and you're constantly being pushed around. So this is the foundation of why shaping is so important for your game. You're going to be able to know how to deal with both of these kinds of players and constantly be able to dictate the speed and the direction of the match, no matter who you're facing on the court. Okay, so the first thing we want to note about shaping of the ball is that it depends on two things: the height over the net of your shot and the amount of spin, particularly top spin, that you put on your shot. And so you can hit a ball that's either 1 foot over the net, right? A lower percentage shot that has more drive into it, or you can hit one that's 10 feet over the net. All right, one that has a lot more lift and lands deeper into the court, but with more spin on it. So we're gonna look at the techniques that you can use in your swing to slightly modify both your flight path and the way your arm is moving through space, so that you can accomplish both of these things. Different levels of height and margin over the net, and putting more spin on it so the ball will come back down into the court reliably, even if it's 10 feet over the net. So first things first, in order to get a desired height over the net, you're going to want to change the flight path of your swing. To quickly sum it up, if you want to hit the ball higher over the net with a greater margin, say a 10-foot shot, you're trying to lob, then your flight path would be more directed up. You'd be swinging up on the ball more. Now if you wanted a drive shot, say for an approach shot or a passing shot, then you would want the racket to swing more through the ball and less up. All right, and these two ideas kind of also go hand in hand with what to do when you're trying to add topspin to your shot. All right, naturally topspin is created by having the racket swinging up from below the point of contact and then making contact in an upward and vertical acceleration. All right, that is the basis for what creates topspin. So if you're constantly taking the racket straight back and then swinging through just straight on, it is practically impossible to create topspin, because as we just found out, topspin is primarily created from a vertical acceleration on the ball. Now the second thing that's going to be important for creating topspin is, if you look at video footage of many professional players that are known for a lot of topspin, you can really pinpoint what their arm is doing throughout their swing. So when they're taking the racket back and they're swinging through, you will actually notice their forearm rotating around as they hit the ball, like this. So they're rotating their forearm and their wrist around as they make contact with the ball. And it's important to note that this is not a kind of a scooping motion. You're not trying to carve into the ball, right, as you might have heard, because if you look at the actual time the ball makes contact with your strings, it's about 2 to 4 thousandths of a second. So rather than carving the ball, you're really just adding more topspin over the ball as you're rotating your wrist and your forearm around. So if you've never actually tried this in your stroke, if this is like a new concept to you, just do a few exercises where you just hold your racket out in front of you and rotate it around like so. So you get the feeling of what it'll feel like as you're swinging, and this motion. It's gonna feel new to you, it's gonna feel a little weird to you, but by just letting the racket fall back and forth, you get the feeling of what's happening with your forearm as you're making contact. So in a way, it's like pronation on your serves, which is a whole nother topic for a whole nother time, but it's the basic same idea. So as I've already said before, how you create more height on the ball and get the ball higher naturally would be adjusting your swing path to swing up on the ball more. And if you want to add more topspin, you're going to add that same motion to bring the ball back down into the court. So if we understand that to create a higher margin over the net, you're swinging for a 10-foot shot over the net, then we would naturally need more topspin to bring it back down into the court. Now, in order to have a shot go that high and not go sailing into the back fence, because if you would hit the ball flat against your strings, the ball is going to go in the direction that the strings are facing. So if the strings are facing straight up while you hit the ball, it's going to go way up and into the back fence. So what we need to do in order to create more topspin to bring the ball back down into the court, we're going to want to create a brushing motion past the ball as we swing higher on the ball. Sometimes it's just hard for people to get their head around the idea that you're not swinging at your target. But you have to understand that if you swing towards your target, the ball is going to make contact with the strings flat on, and it's going to be more of a drive kind of shot, right? It's going to go straight towards your target. And there's going to be little to no spin if you don't have that vertical acceleration. So to create more margin, drop your racket lower, swing up past the ball, it will go higher, and it will have spin to come back down into the court. Now on the flip side of the coin, if you want to create a shot with more drive to it, say if you're going for that 1 foot margin over the net, then instead of dropping it lower than the point of contact and swinging more up, what do you think you would have to do? Well, you would take it more straight back and swing through the ball. And in this way, with little to no vertical acceleration, there's going to be little topspin, but your ball is going to go usually harder and faster towards your target. And this is what creates those super fast flying balls that you'll see the pros make that go very little over the net. Now, this is a lower percentage shot, so even the pros, they don't hit these shots 5-10 times in a row. They use these shots in strategic ways to their advantage. So don't try to think that in order to be good, you need to be hitting shots 1 foot over the net. That's just not smart tennis, and it will get you losing more points than not. Now, if we remember what we learned in the last training, the net posts are 3.5 feet and the center of the net is 3 feet. That 6 inches difference may not make a difference at all if you're hitting like a 10-foot ball over the net, because obviously it's like 10 foot. You're not gonna even be close to the net. But if you're hitting a drive ball that is about a 1 foot margin over the net, 6 inches makes a big difference. So if we think about it, then the cross-court shot is going to be a higher percentage shot whenever you're making a shot with more drive through it. Now, something that I didn't touch on really yet was the rally ball standard of margin, which is about 3 to 5 feet over the net. This is the typical shot that you'll be making back and forth, the shot that most of the pros are hitting most of the time, the shot that you're really going to be safest hitting in a normal rally setting. So the drills I want to mention today are again going to be starting with drop feeds. You're going to want to drop feed the ball to yourself a numerous amount of times so that you can work on getting the ball going in the place that you want and having the technique on your shot in order to create the amount of spin that you need, the amount of height that you need, and practice just drop feeding and using these two different extreme margins so you can feel the difference in your flight path and the amount of spin that you're actually putting on the ball. Now the next progression of this drill would be actually getting a partner out. So in this situation, if you have a partner, this would be great for them to come out and help you. So the main point of the drill would be hitting the ball at a 10-foot margin over the net to your partner and hitting it back and forth in that same way. So you'd hit a 10-foot ball to your partner and they'd hit a 10-foot ball back. And you'd work on creating a rally that has a 10-foot margin over the net consistently back and forth. And as you do this, you can even implement the consistency drill I taught you in the last training to combine and kill two birds with one stone. So yeah, that's the basics of shaping the ball and how to create a larger margin over the net without sending the ball sailing and having that top spin to be able to confidently bring it back down into the court. Now with this knowledge, hopefully you'll be able to apply it to your game on the courts and become less and less susceptible to getting pushed around on the court and more likely to take those opportunities that your opponents are just giving away. I hope this was helpful to you, and if we've been talking about the cake the whole time, next training is going to be all about the icing. So stay on the lookout for that. I'm excited to get that out to you. It's going to be a lot of fun and one of my favorite aspects, as with a lot of players. Not to say that it's the most important, because I do think that technique and consistency are the foundation, but let's just say this is a little bit more fun to implement in your game. So until next time, happy tennis my friends, and I will see you in the next one.